Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Brightworks. Today, taking a look at a Supreme Straits battle. You know I love this map, and from the description I got for this replay, it was a viewer-submitted replay, the description I got, apparently some very, very cheeky strategies go down here. You'll notice I haven't cleared the map, because I think this might be a hint of what exactly the plan is here. You can see our yellow player here, Funky Vlad, has drawn some lines here depicting a pathway of sorts for some of his teammates on the red team here. The red team spawning in the southern side of Supreme Straits. This is, of course, a diagonally mirrored map. You can see there's the oceans on the top and the oceans on the bottom. Our red player for this game going to be representing the red team here in the bright red color, Brand Tutran. Not sure what that, maybe like two transports or something like that. Maybe transgender, whatever it may be. We have Brand Tutran here, our red player, 34 true skill, topping the lobby with that much true skill. Really expecting some big plays out of them. Here for our blue team, spawning in the northern half of the map, the northeastern half of the map, I guess I might clarify. Waffly Tripod. That is an interesting name. I'd love to hear how that name came about. Love the story behind usernames. Those are always really interesting. But today, Waffly Tripod, going to be the blue player here for the blue team. Now, notice right off the bat, Waffly Tripod losing energy, but not fast enough. And it looks like his teammates might be giving some energy as well, meaning that the hovercraft plant is going to come up nice and early here. So, indeed, we have a transport already handed out to Brand Tutran. Guess that's the move. We have transports coming out here. Another one handed out to a taco. And it looks like these transport planes are going to be used for some sort of shenanigans. Now, are we going to pick up the commander, or are we going to pick up a construction bot? I've seen people move construction bots over to this island over here. Sometimes that's... Oh, let me go ahead and clear these for you, by the way. Sometimes that's a popular strategy, is to fly a construction bot over here to try and beat the player contesting this side of the map. Mirrored, of course, so up here as well. But it looks like we haven't seen that yet. So far, no play with these transports. Okay, Brand Tutran, our red player, going for a liftoff with the transport, using it to pick up their commander and move it out onto the map. Let's see what the Q is for this. Okay, so we are landing the commander. We're doing a bit of an offensive commander movement here. A Taco and Funky Vlad also. Okay, so we are going for the triple comm drop strategy. Now, I'm not sure if these are trying to... I'm not sure exactly what they're trying to do with these. They're either going to try and destroy these bases, right? I mean, that's the goal. Destroy the bases, but I don't know if they're going to go for the D-gun or the self-destruct. Of course, if you self-destruct, you're leaving 2,000 metal on the ground right there, and that's more than enough to repay for the damages that you can do with the commander. So you actually have to blow up a whole base and get the commander out, or at the very least, make sure that you do enough damage. Do at least 2,000 metal worth of damage, right? No, this is interesting. Brand Tutran is going for a bot lab up on top here. It wouldn't make sense to put a radar back here, so I don't believe any of these players are going to see it. Yeah, you can see no radar here, and if there is a radar, it's going to be on the bottom where it's not going to see up to this northern mountain here. So actually a really, really good play there. In fact, we do see two other commanders coming in. Now, are these going to be seen by the opposing team? Sorry, I'm trying to select this team here. No, they are not. This entire mountain completely out of vision range here. So actually this play is going to work out incredibly. Yeah, Funky Vlad, all of them going for forward operating bases. We can see pawns coming out now on Brand Tutran. We can see another bot lab here coming out of Funky Vlad, and a vehicle lab coming out of a taco. So, all right, already kicking things off, becoming very spicy. I'd love to see these bot labs back here reclaimed, although I guess we aren't stalling on metal quite yet. But yeah, reclaiming the labs back here just to make sure that your production, yeah, you can see Brand Tutran already on top of that. Just to make sure that the production up here is completely committed, right? This is a very, very all-in kind of play. You can keep a transport here, but as soon as a single anti-air tower comes up, this is going to be shut down. So it's important that we get a ton of units out here and either retreat the commanders before those units. I would love to see a construction bot pumped out here to bring construction turrets. Otherwise, we can just bring construction turrets. We do have these transports. They can lift up the construction turrets, pick them up, send them around. If we take a quick look around the map just to inspect the status of the other players here. It looks like the hovercraft have taken over the northern sea from waffly tripods. So as far as that sea goes, it is completely uncontested by the southern team. Looks like this sort of tan player here, Samil, is less familiar or less interested in contesting the seas and instead going to be going for an air lab. Interesting. I'm not sure why we're doing that as a frontline player, and considering the fact that we have a air lab in the back already, maybe just a miscommunication. We do finally see a aircraft coming out. Ooh, does it spot anything? It does not, just barely outside of the radius there. All these pawns, all these tanks, and it looks like they're all going to start moving out. Now, when is this spotted? Well, let's see how fast it takes to get a reaction. No radar coverage at all in this side of the map. I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, why would you put radar coverage here? It doesn't really make any sense at all. So all of this is going to be spotted super, super late. I mean, basically once these are in the main base of the enemy here. Absolutely devastating hit. And this can definitely be game over. Like, this attack should be crippling, like completely crippling here. Yeah, that's a devastating amount of pawns. We've got the medium tanks too. This is suddenly going to hurt very, very badly. Yeah, the pawns keep running around. They find those energy converters right next to the windmill, so a big chain reaction right there. And the pawns keep moving backwards. Pawns over here are getting the battery energy storage. This base also being ravaged here. These pawns stalled on APM a little bit, so they're not hard at work. Yeah, this is just the blue team, specifically this green player here, this dark green player, is just sitting here like, what just happened? All of a sudden there's 50 pawns in my base, a bunch of medium tanks, and 20 more pawns coming in from a different color. Where the hell did all these units come from? So absolutely phenomenal play, great teamwork there coming out. Now, as a counterattack here, blue has pushed up this shoreline, which was completely undefended. Remember, Samick went for the air lab there, so had no actual forces on the ground, meaning that a bunch of these little light, what are they called? Fast attack hovercraft, the Seekers. These little Seekers are going to be wrecking havoc in the backline here of the yellow team, so actually a bit of a trade, which is pretty interesting. Pawns running all over the place. I think these would do better to be concentrated in one area or another, but it's hard to deny the amount of pure chaos that these are wreaking all over the map here. Mexes are down, solar panels are down. Everything is feeling the hurt of these pawns coming out here. We do see some gunslinger here to try and mop up some of these units. Looks like a little bit of an APM stall here on some of these tanks from orange. Yeah, and we can see more and more of these units just pushing in here. The stouts are just rolling in. What is that? Sorry, I'm looking for my hotkey for this. There it is. Shift and Y. Or I believe I changed it. I think it's Shift and T in order to track a single unit. Yeah, this push. I mean, this is a crazy push. Like, how do you clean this up, right? You know that there must be a huge front up here. We see the defenses coming up too. We have the bot up here. I wouldn't even really AMC starting up the production of geothermal plant there. I think that might be quite phenomenal. Take whatever advantage you can while you have it, right? Now, yellow's base has been completely ravaged by all of those Seekers. Looks like most of them were mopped up one way or another. There's still one in the backline here, so this could cause a little bit of damage. But yeah, yellow is now stuck here. Looks like yellow will pick up the commander and hold it gently. Xenix, realizing this needs to be stopped as soon as possible, so starting to push up this lane. These Dragon Claws are pretty dangerous though, so it definitely can do some damage. Yeah, 185% against commanders, so it can definitely do quite a bit of damage as soon as it starts popping up. These pawns, of course, can also do some damage. We all know how deadly they are. Go check out my latest short if you want a little infographic about the pawn, Armada's favorite workhorse. Commander being used here, I guess, to just go around and capture some of these metal extractors. I don't hate that at all either. I think that's great. Now this seems like a game-winning advantage here. The economy for blue is now being ravaged by some tanks in the back line. Luckily there are the hovercraft tanks in order to contest this. That's probably the best option that there is as far as a water player goes. But yeah, I mean, how does this not end the game right here? I mean, I know how long this game is, so I know it doesn't end right here, but it seems a little bit odd that this could be anything but a game-winning move. I guess we'll have to see how the blue team holds on here. It is only this one peninsula, so I guess Funky Vlad does have the right idea here. but I think I would love to see him pushing forward just a bit further so that this actual production facility gets wiped off. Remember, dark green got pushed through, and then these people back here got pushed through as well. Some damage was done all around here, but it was all kind of distributed to the middle of this map, but they didn't actually break this purple player, so there is actually a mounting force now, which is going to be difficult for this team to break through. We're going to need to see a lot more production here on the front lines, but it looks like most of them have decided to tech up to T2. What I would actually like to see is a T2 bot lab put to the front here, maybe sharing the resources from this commander and any of the fallen units here in order to build that T2 bot lab up here and keep pumping out T2 bots closer to the enemy. I think that might be a harder decision to go for, right? Strategically, a harder decision to go for, but I think it might be a more beneficial one, maybe riskier, but higher reward. Taco deciding to evacuate the commander, get it back out of there. And yellow cannot rebuild this base. There's no... Yeah, yellow is completely stuck on this island. That must have been why Funky Vlad is going for the metal extractors over here, just trying to rebuild some sort of an economy here. Orange, capitalizing on the available mech spots now, which I think is a good idea. Either share those back to yellow or just keep them for themselves and start pumping out those T2 units. You can always ferry them back and forth with transports too, so I wouldn't hate to see that either. Gurky says GG. Kind of an early GG in my opinion, especially for that player. You were kind of defended by your teammates here, so maybe unaware of exactly how successful this counterattack from purple is, and tapping out a little bit too early. Complaining in the chat about using radar, but honestly, it's such an easy thing to miss. I mean, I wouldn't think to put a radar right here either. This just doesn't seem like a weak point, but obviously the red team has figured out some sort of strategy that I was not previously aware of. Kudos to them for figuring that out. I think that's excellent. We will love to see these strategies. If you love to see these strategies, subscribe down below. You can always turn off the notifications if that's going to bother you. I know I always do. That's my biggest worry is I don't want pop-ups happening all over the place. You can just turn that off right after you hit the subscribe button, in case you're worried about that. Hover tanks pushing through on the left-hand side here. Let's take a look at these. Use my camera keys like a good caster commentator would. And we can see these hover tanks pushing pretty far forward. These agitators putting in a little bit of damage, scuffing them up pretty badly, but not enough to stop this entire push whatsoever. These hover tanks are going to be a pretty devastating force here, at the very least to Disco Wizard's base here. A kind commentator pointed out that the difference between light salmon and dark salmon is actually farm salmon versus fresh caught salmon or wild caught salmon. So thank you very much. I don't remember your name, but I remember your comment. That was such an interesting fact. Wanted to share that with all of you. Guess that can be our fact of the day, right? Some people were saying they tuned in just for those facts of the day, so I guess I better not disappoint. Sakura in a little bit of trouble here, although I think the tanks are going to prioritize the eco here, which is a good option. I think the eco is probably a better idea than trying to take down the commander. A little less risky, probably guaranteed to do a little bit more damage. Gunslinger out here, and that's a good option against these tanks, but it is slow, so I don't know if it's going to be able to catch up. The trick to detonating these windmills here is to damage a few of them so that they chain react. So what you want to do is have all three tanks attack a different windmill, and then you want to burst one of them down, and then that'll cause a chain reaction. Just a little bit of an FYI for all of you Beyond All Reason players out there. The Battle Bandit looking to fortify this area so that no more of those pushes can come through, and I think that's a great idea. We do see a single submarine out here accidentally perfectly countering the build from the blue player, the naval build at least. We do see a submarine coming up for the blue player eventually, but in the meantime, this submarine is getting quite a lot of free damage. Very, very nice. Well, it gets mismicroed a little bit, but in the meantime, those Elisaw are a little bit softened up. Now we do see T2 vehicle production, hovercraft production, and naval production for this blue player here. I guess just using a tremendous amount of reclaim or what? I'm not sure exactly how they have so much metal. I guess all that naval possession, right? All this whole area over here, plus the metal extractors over here, plus the metal extractors underwater. I guess that all just adds up to a big enough economy that they can support it. Now, I would love to see this darker salmon, this wild-caught salmon. I believe that was what it was. The wild-caught salmon's a little darker than the farm-raised salmon. You'll have to correct me again, faithful viewer, whoever you were down there. Go ahead and put your comment. I'll pin it right at the top. just reiterating your point. But either way, this reading player down here going for an air lab instead of an amphibious lab for producing tanks. And I think, actually here I don't hate it whatsoever. I would be a little skeptical because we did already see that transport harassment, which has been cleaned up, by the way. Probably should point that out here. All of that has been dealt with nicely. We'll just use a reclaim over here. Going for an air lab is a little bit risky because you know that your team already harassed using air units, so they're probably going to be expecting some sort of aerial harassment. That coupled with a bunch of bombers that are just flying right down the middle of the map. No scout, just hopes and dreams on these bombers for sure. Sub out one of these bombers for a scout, right? Just that's 150 metal. You can make 2 scouts with one of these bombers, and you don't really need 5. You'll do just fine with 4. That's my my advice of the day for everyone out there. Reading instead going for the gunships, the Sabres, which are a really good gunship. I mean, they are very powerful. You can definitely snipe down some pretty important structures. You could get a T2 lab, you could get a commander with it, you could get some fusion reactors, whatever it is. They're going to be very, very good against that. Looks like we already have a T3 lab up. This is a pretty fast T3 lab, actually. 15 minutes. We don't really have the economy to support unit production, but we do have a single Marauder out on the field. Maybe that'll be enough to scare the red team into buckling up a little bit tighter. Sometimes that alone can be worth it. Just convincing the other team that they need to make more defenses than they actually need. And then that becomes very valuable. This gunslinger gets away. Ooh, that's a big fly. Wow. They just harassed me, just like went right in my eye. All right. Guess it's that time of the year. Yeah, I don't come from a place with too many flies, at least not this time of year, so not used to that. What was I talking about here? Gunslinger, that's why it's on my screen. Gunslingers, of course, they have this nice regenerative ability, so they just go right back up to full health after a little while. After, they get scratched up and they return to the battlefield clean and crisp, ready to gunsling some more. It's a very, very powerful unit to get into a scrap with, retreat, and then it's good as new in just a few moments. And now we do see a destroyer here to counter these submarines, but both the submarine and the destroyer just absolutely wrecking this Elsa. Oh, the submarine has now figured out. Okay, looks like they both figured it out eventually. But this Elsa was really beat up for a second there. Destroyer versus submarine. The destroyer is going to win that. Just in a one-on-one battle. That submarine quite a bit cheaper than the destroyer, so it makes sense. But two submarines definitely beats a destroyer. These gunships have wreaked havoc over here. It looks like they sniped a commander, which is very nice. Sniping that commander without losing a ton of gunships is also very nice. It's very easy to do, to lose your gunships, I mean. Letting Yellow know that that is completely clear now, and so they can start building on that island, which is very, very nice. It's going to be helpful for Yellow, who lost basically their entire economy, building up from scratch here. Wind turbines is where we're at this point, which is quite nice to see them sticking around in the game. It's very easy to quit the game when you feel like you've lost it all. Very nice, very commendable that they are still sticking with it. Very important to see some resurrection, some reclaim coming out here over the naval terrain here. I'd love to see this bot going around and reclaiming all of these wrecks. So many juicy wrecks right here. Let's just take a look. Woo! 3,700 metal. That's more than enough to fund your T2 lab. So I'd love to see all of that slurped up. Yes, slurped up. That's your word of the day. There you go. We got this pit bull out here, and these things can be pretty devastating, especially to those T1 units. They just they fire fast enough and they do enough AoE damage that they really can shut down a lot of those T1 pushes pretty easily. Recluse even brought out to the front line here. A bit of an odd choice, but we've been seeing these more and more. I think the very last video I casted had some Recluse gameplay, which is pretty cool. I feel like they're a pretty rare unit, but maybe they're the new meta. Those rockets are pretty powerful, and it does launch 3 of them, so can't really argue with that, right? More DACA beats less DACA, as the orcs of the 40k universe might say. Kind of really crappy at shooting these blitzes, though. Wow, yeah, you guys are really bad at shooting those blitzes. So bad. Wow, they just can't track those at all. Good to know. Recluses theoretically counter blitzes, but in practice, just nowhere near the aim tracking. You know, need to hit the aim labs a little bit. Those recluses do. Blue now with a pretty firm command over this sea. Excellent. We do see this reclaim bot here getting to work, making sure that all of this gets sucked up, and I bet blue is having a wonderful economy for it. 125 metal a second while that thing is reclaiming. That's very, very nice to see. We can see 2 fusion reactors up. Probably going to start an APHIS eventually here. We do have the energy converters for it. This is a great time to suck up your auxiliary lab, suck up your T2 lab, suck up your hovercraft lab, put down an amphibious lab, build that advanced fusion reactor, start pumping out those units, press the beaches. Easy win for the blue team. Now opposite to that, of course, we have the wild salmon down here. Finally getting a T2 lab up and running. Almost 99 and 100. There it is. T2 lab up and running. We need little call-outs. I know in like Command and Conquer or StarCraft, you know, there's little voice lines that play on certain actions here. Looks like a commander went down up in the north here. We need little voice lines for all these things. Not like notifications. We have notifications right now, but we need a little voice line. You know, somebody your T2 lab comes up and a little guy goes da-ding, da-ding. T2 naval is available for you, Commander. Or something like that. Ready to take the seas, Commander. So, you know, you guys know what I'm saying. Some sort of cheeky little guy tells you that your T2 naval is ready. I think that'd be phenomenal. Not even something that I think is beyond the reach of the developers for this game. A lot of the developers for this game are just the people who play this game, right? Most of the pros, quote unquote, are developers, and they just it really is a passion project. So I don't think that's beyond their skills at all. No, Marauder has snuck by here. This could actually do some serious damage if it finds this back line. We do have a lot of what are these called again? Butlers. Yeah, the assist bots. Kind of a confusing bot at first. I didn't know what to do with these. Turns out they're really good at putting up windmills. So if you're looking for a way to throw up about 100 windmills, that's always great to queue up a ton of those with a single butler, and it'll get up a whole bunch of windmills really quickly. It's a very popular strat on flats and forests. This beamer turret doing a pretty good job, actually. Wow. Beamer versus Marauder. Who knew? I think the Marauder was at about 30%, and that Beamer tower took it down. Kudos to you, Beamer Tower. You did better than I expected, honestly. Now, as nice as it is to have this T2 lab up, it definitely means that you probably shouldn't have a seaplane and a Tech 1 shipyard up. So remember to keep those in the back of your mind. That's a good, yeah, almost a little more than it's 2,500 metal by my maths, my quick maths. 2,500 metal. They could easily be a ship. Could be a longbow. There we go. Could be another construction ship. Could be a whole bunch of stuff. So definitely keep that in mind. Also make sure to micro properly. Make sure your economy is being built up. Some resurrected dolphins. That's interesting. You don't see that very often. At least not dolphins resurrected by grave robbers here. But I guess if they dive close enough to the shore here, we can bring them back to life. Yeah, very nice. It's a little out of reach. I don't know about that one. It's kind of optimistic. How did this happen? We have some pawns over here on this beachhead. Somehow, I guess, just stashed over there from Funky Vlad. How is Funky Vlad doing? Looks like we're going for some bombers. I think Vlad needs to focus on economy. I think Vlad just needs to start teching up as fast as they can. We do see some of these crocodiles here. The hover tank. The Armada hover tank. Doing their very best to harass this area. Going back into the line of fire here for these rattlesnakes. It's going to be a death wish for them. Wow, those bombers, well, you know, I was about to say they did a lot of friendly fire, but they actually managed to stop doing friendly fire just in time. These consoles were in a little bit of trouble. They were probably quaking in their boots, but they managed to avoid the bombs for the most part. Crocodile here, shooting at this lone construction vehicle out here. I guess it was just barely in range there. Now we have some bombers coming in here. There is light anti-air towers, but not going to be enough to stop bombers. It will stop bombers who are not bombing anything, though. That is a certainty. One of the anti-air towers goes down. 1 out of 3. We're not paying attention to this very well. That is unfortunate. So blue will probably have a nice hold on that. And from what seemed like a game-winning advantage here for the red team, we suddenly find ourselves in a very, very, very close match, very evenly matched game here. Yeah, there's not really a lead. I do like the T3 units that are out for the green team quite a bit more. Of course, the amount of economy is really going to have to scale up for both teams here if they want to break this massive front line. It's kind of a shame that we saw the backline players here, instead of really committing to that push, committing to this aggression, they decided to tech up in the back lane as opposed to producing units. And yeah, kind of a bummer. I think they probably could have won the game if they had just kept up the pressure in the front line here. But that's also a very difficult decision to make, right? Like, you don't know if you're actually just throwing for your team and going to lose a ton of metal and it's not going to be worth it. It's a risky play, but, you know, they have this commentator's official stamp of approval to keep refining that build, especially if those three know each other, or, you know, they were talking about this or communicating sometimes. Sorry about that. I might have just bumped the microphone. That's my next big purchase. As soon as we hit 1,000 subs, that's my next goal. I'm going to be buying a nice big boom arm for this microphone, so that doesn't happen anymore. It doesn't have to just sit on my desk like a plebeian. Or probably get rid of those clicking noises too. That's just sort of an irrevocable symptom of having the microphone have to be close to my keyboard and mouse there. Some battleships here, the dreadnoughts. Love these battleships. I love all of the battleships, all of the ships in general for the Armada faction. Actually, I like all of the ships for both factions. They just all are so cool. They have such cool names. Dragon Slayer. That's, I mean, just tell me that isn't the coolest name you've ever heard. I think every ship on both the factions has such cool names. The Black Hydra, that's the mothership for the Cortex faction. Mothership isn't the right word, but you get what I mean. The flagship, that's the word. The Paladin, right? Oh, so cool. Bermuda, yeah. I am an absolute fan of the naval units in this game. I think they just have such cool style, such cool design. I love the little heads on top of each of these. You see that? Look at the little heads on top of these. Absolutely brilliant. Bombing run coming in here, but again, no scouts coming out. You gotta put some scouts in there. You're killing me, Samick. You're killing me. No scouts out, and yeah, man, they just walk right into a bunch of Mercuries. Ooh, that hurts so bad. Yeah, those Mercuries will tear apart T1 bombers with no issue. Not to mention the Dragon Slayers that were also sort of in position to deal with that as well. And that bombing run effectively produces nothing. Very sad to see. Also, these gunships have been fairly inactive over here. I'm not sure what the plan is. These basically need to go get value, otherwise they were produced for no reason. Again, we still see the seaplane platform, and at this point, or, you know, earlier I thought maybe we would use the metal from that to build up our economy, but at this point we're not even spending the metal that we have. I guess now we're producing units, but we've got 5,000 metal in the bank, and I would love to see this spent on a reactor, a couple reactors, some energy converters, or producing a ton more units, right? This is a build power stall. In case anybody's wondering, this is the quote-unquote hidden mechanic, the third resource in Beyond All Reason is build power. That's what this is right here. We have the metal, we have the energy, we just don't have enough build power to actually spend it all effectively. That's kind of a more difficult thing to quantify, right? Because you can look at your energy, you can look at your metal, but it's harder to gauge how much build power this is. For the record, each of these does 200 build power, so this is 4, 8, 12 build, yeah, 1,200 build power. There's the quick maths coming out for you. You probably want about double this. I would say safely to double this amount of build power here. You get kind of an intuitive sense for it. I don't really think that, you know, 2,400 is the exact right number for a T2 lab. I just think probably the amount of turrets that I would want working on this shipyard here would probably be about double that. There are proper ratios. Go check out the top 10 beginner tips video that I have on my channel, and that also is featured. The other part of that video is featured on Barcast TV's channel. Also an excellent bar content creator. I would definitely recommend go check out some of the stuff he works on, especially if you're looking for a 1v1 experience. If that's more of the game mode that you're interested in, he covers a lot more of those and is definitely way more familiar with that kind of matchup. So that's definitely the place I would recommend you go to next if you are looking for a viewer, or rather a caster that covers a bit more of that 1v1 content. I kind of want to get into that eventually, but for now, you know, I'm going to leave it to him and just keep enjoying his videos. Big shout out, Bardcast TV. Dreadnoughts here, huge pain in the butt. This is the reason why it's important to contest this naval side, right? This is your entire job as the player over here. Although it's sort of weird position, right? This Samick player should probably be doing this, but instead going for T2 production. Wow, this is weird. You know, this is something that I feel like I see some of the lower skill players doing quite a lot, is building this tremendous amount of energy storage, and I just can never figure out why. Maybe comment down below. I want to hear from you guys what you think the cause of this is, the energy storage spam. I know one player I asked about it just said it was a misinput. If that's the case, that is completely fine, right? That happens to the best of us. Maybe it's just an off game, maybe meant to build something completely different, maybe meant to build energy converters or something. Again, probably not the right decision. I see it all over here, but yeah, maybe that was the idea. But anyway, let me know down below if there's a reason that keeps happening and I'm not privy to it. A lot of bombers out here, a lot of Stormbringers has been built up over the last 15 minutes, and they bomb nothing. Oh, the scouts, guys, the scouts. You're killing me. Look at all that wonderful economy. Okay, a lucky bomber crash does end up killing that economy. You're lucky. You almost incurred the wrath of the Brightworks for not sending a scout with your army there, with your aircraft there. Luckily, the suicide bombing ended up taking out the economy, but it definitely could have been quite a lot better. Tons of advanced advanced solar collectors coming out here. I mean, I don't hate to see that, but it's a slight inefficiency. If you check out my scenarios videos, I do tend to do that. At least in one of them, I had to build a bunch of these. It can sometimes be a necessary evil as you're stepping up, but it's definitely miles better than building the T1 spam. Huge push coming out here as the front of units for the green team, the blue, I guess it's the blue team, but I want to say green because green is basically the entire front line here. Green team has pushed forward here and made quite a bit of progress. More and more units have been pumped out, and I think it's slowly turning to the tide of the blue team. I think the red team might have just gotten stagnant. They thought they had a tremendous advantage. They overstated it. They overestimated it, and now they're reaping the consequences of a team that was not dissuaded from winning this game. We see marauders from a whole bunch of different members of this team here. I'm not sure how purple got their hands on marauders, actually. Maybe just given from another teammate somewhere. Either way, these marauders are excellent for harassing through the water. Of course, they're amphibious, so they can just pop up wherever you want them. And for anybody that's curious, this is actually the wrong response here. This feels like the right thing to do. I remember learning this map. I thought this was the right thing to do, just fortify this beachhead. No, the right thing to do is actually to build a navy. Start working on building a whole navy. Get those ships out. Try and contest the naval presence here, because even if you lose it, that's going to be a way better defense. The actual units and reclaiming all that, it's going to be way better than just having a bunch of static defense here. And let's take a look at this. How effective can they be? The duck swarm pushing forward here. Pretty effective. These rattlesnakes, I mean, they don't mess around, that's for sure. The ducks are in a bit of a confusion here. They're trying to figure out what they should actually be doing. I'm not sure why they're not targeting anymore. Oh, probably trying to avoid friendly firing the walls. That's kind of unfortunate. These rattlesnakes doing a bit of damage to these ducks. They bring down quite a few of them. But there's still a few healthy ones that are still waddling in. In the end, I think this will be enough rattlesnakes, but that next wave of ducks that comes after this is probably going to be more than enough. Now that the defenses have been probed, they either need to keep scaling or they're going to be overwhelmed pretty rapidly here. Battleships even brought forward to try and lay down some suppressing fire. There's no vision over here, though, so they actually cannot tell where they should be shooting. There's also a... what is this called? The plasma deflector, the Keeper, in order to bounce some of those plasma shells off. Very nice. Oh, looks like a bunch of bombers were queued together and they just got taken out by a single Mercury. Gotta spread them out. This is a cool front line right here. Marauder facing the wrong way. Yeah, I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use that as my nice little screenshot. Very, very nice. There is a bit of an army here. We do see Razorbacks, Hounds, all the good stuff is all built over here. It's just a little bit out of position. There's kind of an open lane on this left-hand side here. Ooh, a bunch of Marauders are now heading over, and I think Marauders are probably going to be tanky enough to push through all of this. That being said, these Keepers can cause quite a bit of a pain for enemy units trying to push in here, but as soon as those Marauders get up here, of course, the battleships are going to start firing, so I want to see this push, how it comes through. This is the right way to siege this. This is the wrong way to siege this. Just want to give everyone a perspective here. Not judging you, wild-caught salmon. We just want to take a look at what you should do. You know, I was hesitant to finish that sentence because apparently we are APM stalling here. Nukes running out of the APM to control this army properly. Oh well, probably busy somewhere else on the map, maybe microing. Looks like we've got a nuke up in the air. That's interesting. Do we have an anti-nuke? We do, so that nuke gets snuffed out. Was that our big plan? Where did that even come from? Ah, it came from all the way back here. It was an Apocalypse, the Cortex nuke launcher. Do we have a single fusion reactor powering all of this? My friend, your economy needs to grow. If you're going to be a backliner, you need to build your economy quite a bit further. We're looking for 6K metal production, or 6K energy production, up to 6 to 9K energy production, at least 100K metal, or 100K, at least 100 metal production, and then you can start getting those T3 units out. You can see these Razorbacks absolutely shredding these Marauders here. I mean, the Marauders are good, don't get me wrong, but the Razorbacks are just so much better. Almost 4,000 metal apiece for each of these Razorbacks, and it's worth every penny, in my humble opinion. In this caster's humble opinion, the Razorback is potentially one of the highest value units you can get for the Armada faction. And Green here pushing forward with this nice navy that they've built up. We see these long-range battle submarines. Their torpedoes don't look like much, but damn do they hurt. See, every time one of these lands, it's like 20% off of each of these ships. Let's take a look at this here. More than that, it was 32%. Yeah, those submarines hurt so badly. These bombers technically can hit these submarines. It's very weird, and I think they have like a nerfed amount of damage, but yeah, technically the bombers can hit them. Reading, complaining about losing mid while losing the sea. Kind of unfortunate. Not the right idea. Definitely don't blame your teammates, just help them however you can. Be a good team player and all that. Oh, this keeper is so close to coming up. I don't think it will. Yeah, that capital ship there, the Epoch, has found the constructors, and this thing actually gets slowed down. Every time one of these things falls, it gets pushed back a little bit further. Yeah, it's really unfortunate. We see more and more defenses popping up here. These Marauders, I don't know what happened here. They stopped on the beaches or something. A lot of duck debris, so I guess there was another wave of ducks that tried to push through here, but they just didn't. Finally, we see a whole bunch of Marauders queued up by blue. I think that's absolutely going to be enough Marauders if all of these get queued through this choke point here. Marauders at the very least have enough hit points to stay alive, even if they're being harassed by enemy defenses. Which is like their key attribute, right? They can just tank enough damage to pierce the defenses. They don't have to all survive, but most of them will survive. Enough of them will survive to deal critical damage in the backline. Now, this is nice that Red has sent over some torpedo bombers, because that is a direct counter to this submarine harassment here. Do we have any anti-air coming up? Yeah, okay, yeah, we do have it on the way, but it's going to take a while. So these torpedo bombers are going to get some excellent value, but this is the game-winning play right here. Baldy sending in these resurrection submarines, the Grim Reaper, to, God, again with the cool Navy names, right? Grim Reaper, how cool is that? Sending those in to suck up some of this metal is absolutely critical to keeping this army nice and healthy. The Dragon Slayers finally arrive one by one, and the submarines are no longer going to be under harassment. Whoa, a nuke lands right in the middle of Purple's base. Phenomenal choice right there, right on the edge of the anti-nuke. I don't know how they scouted that. That was a phenomenal play right there. Just barely on the outside of this anti-nuke, and that goes down right smack in the middle of Xenix's base. That hurts a lot. Now, luckily his T2 plant is still up, so we can still make a Twitcher or two to repair things, get those nano turrets back up and running. Yeah, you better start an anti-nuke. That doesn't sound like a bad idea whatsoever. Production here from Purple is going to be drastically slowed down, though, just because of that single nuke. Where did that come out of? Who was our player? Looks like, yeah, it must have been Orange here with the Armageddon. Folks, for those of you that don't know, the Armada nuke launcher charges quite a bit faster than the Cortex nuke launcher, but it has quite a smaller radius. You can see this is the smaller, right? It's a tremendous radius, but it is smaller slightly. You can see this is the Armada radius. We put it in the crater. You can see it basically reaches out to this fusion reactor here. We'll use this crater as our guide. If we look at the Cortex nuke, you can see it reaches quite a bit further, all the way out to this advanced fusion. So slightly larger radius can definitely do quite a lot of damage, but charges quite a bit slower. So you have to be aware of that. If you're going for a nuke rush, you have to play Armada, just because that nuke is going to charge almost twice as fast. I think it's almost twice as fast. Somebody probably knows the exact number down in the chat. It's probably on the Beyond All Reason website as well. Either way, the Armada nuke is definitely quite a lot faster. Now this is a very, very dangerous army. We finally have the anti-air here to harass down any torpedo bombers. We have the submarines to devastate anything floating in the ocean. And really the only option you have left at this point is hovercraft, which of all of the labs that we see here for our salmon player, none of them are hovercraft. So unfortunately this composition is quite vulnerable. That's something I've been thinking about more and more in Navy, is mixing in hovercraft into the composition. It's kind of weird because hovercraft aren't very strong in and of themselves, and they get destroyed really quickly by a lot of, well, basically any T2 ship, but they are basically impenetrable to submarines. And I mean, they can't attack submarines either, at least not the regular hovercraft. The T3 hovercraft can, but regular hovercraft can't attack submarines, so I'm wondering if it'd be worth it to mix in some hovercraft in order to get past submarine-heavy compositions. Submarine-heavy compositions like this one, who are now ravaging both of these players' bases here. Now we do see a cleverly snuck out grouping of marauders. We don't want them there, though. We want them over here. I think if they pushed onto this beachhead, there's not a whole lot of defenses. I mean, there's some T1 defenses, basically, but as long as those defenses go down, and they certainly would to that many marauders, that actually could be a really, really nice push. It would sweep into the backline here, take out a ton of this anti-air defense, probably kill this commander. Let's see what else we would sweep through here. We would take out all these air constructors, because remember those marauders do have an anti-air attack. It would sweep through this T3 production facility here, which would be very, very nice. And then they could either go into the back line or they can go into the front line. And I think if they went over here, which they definitely could, it would be quite devastating. So consider that, right? Consider those big game-winning plays. But this is where it's all at. Look at this push. This is epic. If you're listening to this right now, if you just put your phone to the side, tune back in for just 1 second and take a look at this. Take a look at this spectacle. The sumo march as they swarm the beaches. You can see the marauders pushing forward here. There's Titans over in the bottom right-hand corner, sort of the middle right-hand corner. And the sumos march on. Those little bots, you know, they're small in size, but they pack a big punch, and they're so tanky, really, really hard to burst down. You can see the Titan just flickered on one of them with this laser, and it just barely bursted it down to death. It didn't even kill it, it just got it really low as these sumos continue to push forward. Go back to our spectator vision here. Blues Marauders have pushed through. It was a race, basically. Blues Marauders versus Orange's Marauders. We see Orange's Marauders here moving onto the beachhead almost simultaneously. That's kind of interesting. We have Marauders pushing this way and Marauders pushing this way. Maybe reminding each other. Oh yeah, you've got Marauders. Oh, Samick. Oh, you could have done so well. Could have taken out all those Marauders if we had just cloaked our commander. That definitely could have saved this game. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to happen. Well, it didn't happen. Speaking like I'm in the past tense here. Baldy in a little bit of trouble here, completely surrounded by Marauders, taking quite a lot of damage. Commander does go down with minimal Marauder losses, which is really, really nice. Marauders do find this base over here. They are not microed to attack these construction turrets, though. For anybody that may be curious, the way you do that, I believe the default hotkey is to hit Y. Yeah, it's Y in order to target a specific structure, but you just hit Y and you can click on whatever structure that you want, and then they will target that specifically as long as they're within range here. The second wave of Marauders pushes through, and the Titans are trying to get back into position here to try and kill the rest of these. Having a very hard time, though. These Marauders are much faster than the Titans, so if they outrun the Titans, then there's not a whole lot that they can do. Oh, no, don't retreat. I think they definitely had enough to get by there, but they decided to pull back instead. Ooh, a nuke comes down right in the middle of that Titan's face. He shrugs it off, though. 9% damage, casually. It probably wasn't 9, it was probably like 3 or 4. Nukes do not damage Titans hardly at all. Wow, we have the Great Wall coming out here. Look at I hate to break it to you. I really hate to be the bearer of bad news. Slightly. I don't hate it that much. Any T3 unit can walk over those walls. Yeah, the Marauders, the hover tanks, anything, they can just crush these walls. It does like 1% of damage to them every time they step over one of them. But yeah, it unfortunately it does not stop them. They are unstoppable, which makes sense. I mean, they are the late game unit, right? This is kind of nice. Just fly your airplanes over the Marauders. That milks them down very nicely. The Marauders used to push into this like super heavily fortified area. This is kind of a really inefficient trade here. I don't like that. Yeah, a lot of Marauders had to pay for that little move there. Looks like for the most part all of Orange's push was completely mopped up here. And at this point that means that there is basically no hope for this red team unless there's some miracle play that can be brought out here. I don't see it though. The Titans are desperately trying to defend this left-hand side, this northwest-hand side. The Green Navy is just growing and growing as big as it can. You can see all these ships here. Building up a big enough presence to stop any aerial bombardment from these torpedo bombers. The production facilities, the naval production facilities, have been completely wiped off the map. And meanwhile, Blue's Navy is downright oppressive. 2 flagships, a bunch of juggernauts, a bunch of anti-air ships, and yeah, that's a pretty dangerous push if I've ever seen one. I'm looking for any kind of comeback mechanic. I really want to offer them any kind of comeback mechanic I see, but I just don't see it quite yet. I think maybe if one of these Titans could split off and walk underwater towards another base, maybe it wouldn't really be feasible in the Eastern Sea. Just because of how many submarines there are, they could definitely tear down a Titan with ease. But maybe the Northern Sea, there's not quite so many submarines out here. In fact, I don't see any. So that might be possible, but really it just comes down to whether the red team notices that, and I don't think they do. I don't really think they have the vision. The Sabres finally coming out here. They actually find a use in the late game against these hover tanks. A surprising and unlikely engagement here. Unlikely encounter. But it turns out to be a perfect one. Oh, yep, finish that one off. There we go. Very nice. Micro God. Yeah, you know, I don't hate it. There you go. Look for a counter to these T3 hover tanks, and there's no anti-air in sight or any aircraft of any kind. Yeah, Sabres make a pretty good job. Do a pretty good job. That's the words that I'm trying to say. No, don't go near those Razorbacks. Those can shoot up. They have a little bit of a swivel in their cannons. So they can definitely angle upwards. I'm going to speed up here because I think we're right in the end of this game. Oh, wow, that might be a little bit too fast there. Let's go to 2x. I feel like 2x is respectable. A lot of hovercraft coming out here. It will be good against the amount of submarines that are here. It will not be good against the amount of cruisers that are here, the Paladins. So unfortunately for Funky Vlad, an army that they had spent so long building up over all that time has been eviscerated. Now Blue's own Titans are marching forward. Well, they're kind of hiding right now, actually. Cowering for their lives. Not sure what we're waiting. Oh, that's what we're waiting on. Ooh, I do love me some EMP missiles. Yeah, the Paralyzer. Check this thing out, right? So it has a tremendous range. If I hit A right now to attack, you can see this thing can stun like miles and miles out. Humongous radius, and this is absolutely one of my favorite plays. You build a couple of these on the front line, you wait for them to charge up a bunch of shots, you select them all, you hit A and you right click, and you can stun an entire front line with a single strike, and it stuns them for like 25 seconds or something. Absolutely brilliant. Ooh, I love to see it. Waffly Tripod, you might be my new favorite MVP of the match. Love to see those EMP missiles out on the front line. If you're gonna play Armada, you've already chosen Armada. You gotta choose the EMP missiles. Ooh, I do love these though. The Scuttle, the advanced amphibious bomb here. It's a little nuclear suicide bomber. It does get spotted because of its radar signature, but I love the idea. Definitely a fun little way to get a comeback mechanic going. If it could sneak in a hit on all these console, that would be quite tragic. Could definitely blow apart all of this in one hit. But for the most part, it looks like we're basically on a grind them down sort of mission. That's 2 Warhammer 40k references in one video. Wonder if there's any Warhammer 40k fans out there. It's kind of like an RTS, right? It's like a tabletop RTS. Although it's not very real time. It's just an S. Strategy. It's just a strategy. No, but I wonder if there are any fans. Feel free to write that down in the comments below. This is going to be a very active comment section. Got a lot of requests out of you, you lovely folk down there. Keep me entertained. I've talked about this before, but I get a tremendous dopamine hit every time somebody comments on one of my videos because I get a little message about it. Just absolutely phenomenal. We also got our first hater on the channel. That was pretty funny. Had a good little pity chuckle. I'm not gonna talk about what they wrote because it was pretty mean. But I did get a kick out of that. I sent a picture of that to a couple of my friends. Celebrated my first ever hater. First YouTube hater, anyway. Torpedo bombers coming out here, finding very, very little effect on this massive army, this massive navy, I should say, with a tremendous amount of anti-aircraft ship as they get blown down. Finally, these Marauder, well, I say finally, like I noticed them. I just noticed them now, but a bunch of Marauder pushing up here, finding a huge line of pit bulls and heavy laser turrets and a Titan and all sorts of stuff. But like I said, they don't have a ton of health, but they have enough to break through these lines like this and get into the back line, cause tremendous pain and suffering. All that economy goes up. Advanced fusion, tremendous danger here. Advanced fusions go up, and that lights the entire base of orange up like a Christmas tree. Sorry about the noise there, I just get so excited. Long-range artillery ships here, sieging the front lines as well. We do see the bot spam coming out. Not a very elegant playstyle, the bot spam, but oftentimes a necessary one. I would love to see these spread out, however, maybe a few of them pushing around the northern side here, a few on the southern. Just make sure that they're running all over the enemy terrain. It's basically how you scout in these late-game situations, because sending actual scout craft in doesn't quite work very well. EMP missiles are down. Oh, when they hit this mountain. Yeah, that's something to be afraid of. The economy actually shut down here for Sekra. That is quite unfortunate because it does mean that a lot of these laser towers here are going to be running out of power. You can see we're down to 98 energy as these EMP missiles land on these fusions. Yeah, that's quite a pain. Absolutely. Well, a catapult is brought to the front lines too. I love to see that. Looks like it was resurrected actually. That's a great resurrection. Because those catapults can, of course, breach these Gauss shields, these plasma deflectors. The bad brothers move forward. The bad 17 up blitz, however many 17 is. There's definitely gonna be somebody who knows that in the comments. 17 bad brothers that you know so well, moving forward here, absolutely wrecking this entire base. A bunch of Thors pushing forward too. These have EMP missiles as well. Love to see those brought out. That's a great way to breach enemy defenses. Just EMP a bunch of it with your Thors and then just roll them through. Advanced fusions light up like a Christmas tree, taking down both of the bases in the middle of the map here for the red team. And I think with that, the resistance for the rest of this map is going to be quite futile. Yeah, the remaining red Titans here giving it their all. Giving it all she's got, Captain. There's just not enough left in the tank. So many Titans brought out to the front lines here. It's by no means the most Titans I've ever seen in one time, but definitely going to be a game-ending amount. It's one thing that always confuses me when I see those games with 30, 40 Juggernauts out on the field, and it's like, you cannot lose a game with 40 Juggernauts on the field. You just need to march them. Just put them all in one spot and tell them to go, because there's nothing that's going to stop those in time. It's very, very dangerous. I mean, when you have that much metal put into it, right, you might as well build 50 Juggernauts. 50 Ragnaroks, 50 Calamities, however many. Nuclear silos taken down here. Titans making it in the back line, and this is definitely going to be a GG for the blue, or for the red team, sorry. Last commander here is Ataco, who I think is probably running out of energy. Slowly, but surely. And the commander moves an inch, and so it is spotted briefly. Come on. Please. Come on, Grunts. I believe in you. Okay. Ataco finally decides to end it. It's a good call. And that has been an epic match. What a thrilling back and forth. I mean, I really thought the red team had it with that push up here. on the northern half, and the description I got for this game absolutely did not disappoint. We saw some tremendous plays coming out here. Those early airdrops, I think if those had been just a little bit more committed, it absolutely would have won. But yeah, you can see the teams here kind of just stagnated. Like the economies eventually just outgrew each other here. You can see Baldy making a tremendous economy growth here, and with that economy growth comes more and more units. Now say it with me, folks, more stuff beats less stuff. I think that's no leave you on. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you had a tremendous day, and I hope the rest of it gets even better. See you in the next video.